Hi, how y'all doing? My name's Tyler. I'm the Vice President of the Winthrop College Republicans.
And my name's Leslie. I'm the Secretary of Affairs here.
And today with us we have a very special guest. We have Brandon Newton, who is the youngest person elected to the South Carolina State Legislator at 22 years old. So thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for having me. This is great.
Let's jump right back in it. 22 years old. How did you get your first start in politics at such a young age?
Well, it's kind of a, believe it or not, I've been involved a long time. I'm kind of a veteran at this. So I got involved right after the '08 election. You know, I was in the 8th through 9th grade. So over that time period, I started watching it on TV. Loved it, fell in love with the political side of it, running campaigns, why things work, how do you get people to vote for you on this and that. Loved it. Of course, but after the election, I thought, well, you know, I didn't like the outcome. I'm a conservative person. I'm also a history buff, so that makes me love politics, of course. And so I decided, well, let me go to a meeting. So I convinced my grandfather to take me to a county party meeting. I went to a couple of those throughout the year. Then our state senator at the time, who was Mick Mulvaney, was announced he was running for Congress. We get closer to the fall, they asked for interns from Lancaster because the office in Rock Hill was doing phone calls, but the actual campaign was headquartered in Lancaster, right down the road from my high school. So they asked for interns. Of course, they knew me. I said, absolutely, I'll do it. Been stuck with it ever since. I tell people politics is like church. Once you volunteer, they never let you leave. Yeah. And I got involved, loved every minute of it. Was there at Victory Night, stood on the stage with Nick when he announced his victory and gave his speech. Just absolutely loved it.
That's beautiful.
Got in this, stayed involved after that, started running local campaigns, county council, countywide races like probate race, state house races, all sorts of ones. Pretty good win-loss record, I'd say, but it taught me a lot and ended up becoming the vice chair of the Lancaster County Republican Party. And then last April, I became the chairman of the Lancaster County Republican Party. And I was until Thursday of last week, and I did that. We flipped over those 4 years the auditor, coroner, a state house seat, the solicitor, and we maintained our county council majority, and we flipped our sheriff.
That's awesome.
Republicans. So I was very proud of all that.
Yeah. Great work down there.
Absolutely.
So this is really 8 years in the making, really. You're running.
Yeah. I tell people, it's usually funny when we would have meetings with people about running for office. I would be the veteran in the room on the political side, which always the person we're meeting with did not think or thought we were joking until I started talking about, well, you got to do this and this, and they realized, oh, so you do know what you're talking about. So that was always fun.
Yeah. So then what made you actually decide to finally step in and run?
Well, I had begun looking at it. You know, a lot of people I knew had always said, you need to run. You know, you'd be a great face for the party. We think you have good energy and could do it. So I decided to look at running. I met with Deborah Long. Wow, it's been probably 18, 19 months ago now. And told her, hey, whenever you do decide to retire, you know, I'm going to look at running for your seat. Never expecting that to be this time. You know, I expected, you know, Deborah had only been there since 2008. Didn't think she'd want to leave right away. If anything, I thought she would have ran this time and retired next.
Right.
She'd kind of originally, when she first ran, said she'd never served more than 10 years. Well, that would have been 10 years, which is what I figured she'd do. But some unforeseen circumstances with her husband passing away, some illness in the family, she decided not to run. And since I was still party chair, she called to tell me, and you know, she knew my interest. And I told her, I said, well, you know, if you're not going to run, Deborah, I guess I'm going to run. She said, well, I want you to run. I was going to ask you to, and then she offered her endorsement. And so I was full steam ahead after that.
Yeah.
Well, was your age ever brought up during the election?
It's weird. It was always brought up, but what was so fun about my election was my opponent was 23. So either one of us would have been probably the youngest. I think there's one guy who actually would have been younger than my opponent who just was elected. But it was, you know, really to most people it didn't matter because we're both the same age. But if you didn't know our ages and you met just one of us or me, you know, I look younger than my age. People usually ask, "Can you drive yet?" You know, are you even a registered voter? So you know, I definitely got lots of questions, and I usually tell them, well, we're the same age. Once I tell people that, they go, oh, okay, well, it doesn't matter then. But it was always brought up. Believe it or not, my opponent was funny about one thing. He actually would tell people sometimes he was older and more experienced, and he really didn't mean it as a joke. He actually was being serious, which I think anybody over the age of 40 really could care less the difference between a 22 and a 23-year-old.
Both 20-somethings, right?
Yeah, I don't think they really cared. So it kind of, I don't think that argument would matter a lot.
So I remember I saw a Herald article or something like that where it says 20-somethings running for House seat. So
yeah, it was kind of a cool race. It was two millennials running. So it was really cool.
And it's something that the country's really going to start needing to see.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this.
Yeah, because the fresh ideas, new transitions, and we know the problems that the burdens that have been left on us.
And what I loved was I was able to give the public an idea that millennials are not all Bernie Sanders loving people. We are conservatives. There's a lot of us in there that believe the government has caused the problems that have happened in our lifetime. It's
and I know you still probably have friends from when you graduated from USC Lancaster that were a part of that liberal, progressive, socialist, and now when they graduate, they're like, oh, well, hold up, let me...
it's funny, actually, a very great friend of mine through high school and church with this person was actually the chair of the Bernie Sanders group at Wofford and tried to help him win votes, and she voted for me and helped me win my race, and that was a really cool moment for me to get that.
I just would never think there's a SSU at Wofford, though.
Yeah, I know, I was very shocked as well. I think it was very small.
Well, now that you'll be going into Columbia in January, what's something you're most excited to start doing?
Well, there's three things that I've always said I was going to do if I could ever win a race. So one, which is takes no experts to know, the roads are pretty bad. I personally believe that we're going to have to raise our gas tax personally. I don't think there's enough funding going to our state roads in order to fix them. Now, I don't say that in saying that we just need to throw more money at the problem. That's not always the answer. But to me, there's just not enough money going to it. Secondly, with that, we have to reform DOT. I'm all about government restructuring, which actually the third thing I'm going to mention is that DOT needs to be a cabinet agency, in my opinion, answerable to the governor. That way, if it's not doing its job, if you think it's wasting its money, you can blame someone in the ballot box. The problem is now we really can't, with the way the legislature and the governor both have their hands in it. There's no real accountability to the agency. And that's one of the biggest problems with government is they don't run like the private sector.
Right.
The private sector, you have accountability, you have a command structure, you know who to blame if something is wrong. We don't have that, especially in South Carolina state government. We have way too many boards and commissions. So that's one thing I'll do with DOT. Secondly, is public education and private and higher education funding. For example, a little known thing in state government is that our two-year campuses aren't funded by per pupil basis. So, for example, USCL gets about $750,000 a year less than USC Sumter in the state budget. We're double their size, which is just to me a travesty. It makes no human sense why that happens. And so that's one thing I want to address. It shouldn't matter to me. It should not matter who your senator was 30 years ago, how much money you get in the budget, which is what happened to Sumter for a number of years. Now we've really closed the gap. It used to be well over $1 million. Now it's closing about $100,000 a year on average. So I look forward to working with Senator Gregory on that. They keep closing that gap. That's more of a local issue. Right. And then thirdly, government restructuring. Our government has got to get involved with the modern world. We have way too many separate elected officials. I think the superintendent of education should be appointed, the treasurer, the comptroller, the agriculture secretary. Let's let the governor have the power to run their cabinet. The example I use, if Vincent Shaheen would have won the governor's race in 2010, which he almost did, he would have had 8 Republicans in all the other statewide offices, which to me, that doesn't work. How is he supposed to carry out any agenda that he has if everyone in his cabinet's a Republican who's fighting him on it? I think if we're going to have a governor and we're going to say they're the head of the executive branch, let's actually make them the head of the executive branch.
Well, what's great about this last election is we have a lot of fresh faces going to the legislature, so hopefully we can get a lot of these things done.
Oh yeah, a great friend of mine is now the senator from Rock Hill, West Clymer. Me and him were buddies. We were the youngest 2 county chairs in the state, which he loved saying, even though he was like over 30 years old. And so we were friends, and then on top of that, we were bordering each other in the state. So we were really good friends. And it's kind of fun that we both, we had said years ago, oh, we'll run for the legislature one day, probably will. Here we are, both are. We actually won races this soon, so it's kind of interesting that we're going to get to serve together.
Congratulations again on that.
Yeah.
On some personal note, name something that no one really knows about you.
So I am a sports fanatic. I can't play a single sport. I am the most unathletic person that has ever existed, but I could tell you about any sport. If it's basketball, baseball, football is my favorite sport. I mean, I can binge watch the Olympics all day long. Like, that is me. I love competition. I love being a part of it. Me and my family have gone to Carolina football games since 2000 together, since I was a little kid. So, you know, I've seen the pit of despair of winning 3 games to winning 11 games 2 years in a row with Connor Shaw and Steve Spurrier. So that's a big love of mine. I mean, Saturdays in the fall are the greatest time of the year to me. Not only is it election year, but it's football day. And, I mean, I can wake up at, 11 o'clock, sleep into 11, watch the last hour of game day, and then watch 3 games in a row, and I'll be happy.
So are you feeling the same grief I am then with the Panthers right now then?
Yeah, I know. See, what's funny is I actually grew up as a kid. I was a Buccaneer fan because I loved pirates, and I thought it was cool to have a ship that shot a cannon. But, when I got older, I became a Panthers fan. And but, yeah, it's sad because I really thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year. Perfect team, perfect time. This didn't work out this year. I tell you, they just seem to be missing 1 or 2 ingredients. I think losing Josh Norman really hurt more than we thought it was going to hurt.
This year has just been an emotional roller coaster because the Panthers lost, but now we've done really well in the election. It's like, which would I rather have?
What do we do?
Yeah. So,
well, being a recent graduate yourself, what is your message to college students right now who don't know where they want to go, don't really have an idea, people who cannot really form a strong enough opinion for them to take themselves forward. What would you have to say to them?
Well, you have a couple of things you have to do. One, you're going to have to decide how and what you want out of life. So, for example, if I decided early on that I wanted to be in the public sector, not because I think it's the best thing in the world to do, but because I thought that I had the ability to maybe affect change. You have to find whatever your passion is. Like, I love government and politics and history and stuff like that. Figure out what it is. Like, for example, my girlfriend of many years, Allison's a nurse here in Rock Hill. She's a nurse at Piedmont Medical Center in the ER. That's her passion. She loves it, does it every single day. You have to find it because, I've always had the, this is kind of an overused saying, but I've refused to work a day in my life. I'm going to do something I love. That way every day I wake up smiling. And you need to do that because if you don't, you're going to be sad. Don't just get a degree just to get a degree. I work at USC Lancaster in Lancaster, so I work at a college. I run the orientations, and I tell our students, college is not for everyone, but don't just get a degree to get a degree. Wait. If you need to wait, you'll make it. You can find a job to get you by, but don't take yourself down a road you don't want to be in. Really think, do a lot of introspection, job shadow, internships. Trust me, they'll teach you a lot about life. And I know we were talking about internships earlier before we started the show. You will learn so much interning with someone. You may find a field that you love. For example, my internship with Congressman Mulvaney, I was with the field guy, who did all the ground stuff. I hate field work. It's not for me. I like the strategy part, but I learned that by doing that internship.
Well, going to college conservatives in particular, I mean, college campuses are places where if you say you're conservative, it's like kind of pulling a bullet on you, kind of a target on your back. And then, you know that if you speak up in your classes, your professor's going to, kind of try to embarrass you and try to combat you. And Leslie and I have learned how to deal with that, but what would you say is your advice to someone who's really not sure how to express that yet?
Well, if you're a conservative, I always tell people, pick your horses very wisely. Don't antagonize your professor. Be careful with that. We have a couple of professors on my campus who are liberal, but we get along great. We're like best friends. But don't overdo it. Some people get a little overeager and they decide to try to outsmart the professor, which is never a good move. But have strong convictions. Be proud of what you believe. And don't let anyone change your opinion. I've never understood why someone can go to college being a conservative and walk away not. And I said, well, I learned more. Well, did you not retrospectively think about, well, what did you learn? How does that apply to my beliefs? Don't let someone change your principles just because they have nice facts. Trust me, there's a lot more sides to every story. And usually, even a professor in a college setting, they have an objective and they have an opinion. People cannot be completely objective in the way they teach or they say something. Be proud of your beliefs. Stand up on your campus. A lot of young people go to college and they could care less about government or anything about that. You know, and the reason they become liberal is because their friends do.
Yeah, and that's very
Be
important.
vocal about what you believe. Be proud of it. I will tell people, you know, I was not a big Donald Trump supporter from the beginning, but the young people who on my campus who loved Donald Trump, who were in classes that I helped co-teach and stuff, loved him to death, was willing to tell their friends why, and I saw them get more vocal, more passionate about it. And it's weird; those people are still conservatives in this election.
Right.
And you know, it's weird what we do when you're willing. You have to be willing to take the heat. But if you're a conservative, you know, there's no point being a conservative if we're not willing to stand up for what we think.
Right. Oh, man, beautiful.
We had an election rally a few weeks ago, and one thing Congressman Mulvaney touched on was, you know, he talks to people all the time, but he only sees them so many times, you know, in a year. But with us, you're sitting in a class with someone for a semester, so you get to learn, you get to know them, and you get to convince them that that's way more powerful than any politician or any talking head on TV can do.
You're right. We're the we're the tip of the sword. You know, really and honestly, the reason the president Obama was so effective was that people were willing to share with their friends on Facebook and with their friends they met why they were voting for him. And too often Republicans were the ones that go, well, my politics is private. You know, my vote is private. Well, if you're mad as hell and you can't take it anymore, you know that old saying, share that.
Right.
You know, to share it with your friends and your family. Share it with your children. You know, I tell a lot of parents they don't share their political beliefs with their kids or explain why they believe what they believe. They just give, you know, I'm just a conservative. Why?
Why?
What does that mean? And that's why I think we have a lot of young people who become liberals when they get into colleges because, one, they haven't been exposed to what it means to be a conservative. They just know we say no to a lot of stuff. They don't understand why we say no. We don't explain to them that when the government gets involved in our lives, it makes it harder for people to do things. My mom owns a business in Lancaster, and you trust me, I've never heard her say, "Man, the government helped me today."
Right.
You know, and usually it's, you know, what did the government do today to make it harder for me to earn a profit and to create jobs? And we, you know, that's what we have to share. You know, she shared that with me. She would show me, you know, why a business licensing fee is bad in South Carolina and why it needs to be reformed. You know, why that tax really does nothing for her.
Right.
There's no services that she gets extra out of it. You know, stuff like that. You know, be vocal, be proud of it. You know, show it because if you do, your friends and family will notice.
Right.
And that's how we continue to make the fight street by street, house by house, is person to person.
Yeah.
I wish you could come on November 15th because the school is hosting revisiting South Carolina Act 388, and it'd really be nice to get your kind of insight on that.
Yeah.
They're bringing in certain economists, but I don't know which economists. But
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come because there's a thing at York Tech I was told about today, but I'm not sure. But I'll give you my thoughts on it. So Act 388, especially for areas like us, you know, even Lancaster, northern Lancaster County, in Rock Hill, Fort Mill, we're growing so rapidly that we cannot keep up with our tax base. It's not keeping up with our needs for our local government and our school system. So we're going to do a couple things with that. I always tell people, they say, oh, let's repeal it. I'm like, okay, you let your taxes go up by whatever huge percentage, and that'll end the conversation very quickly. So there's no way we're ever going to repeal the law. I don't think it's politically possible for people to vote for something that's going to double someone's property taxes or even thing close to that. So therefore, we're going to have to make adjustments. I think if we should allow local governments to have the ability to raise property taxes. And people say, why do you believe that as a conservative? It's because I don't like the fact that the state government even tells local governments they can't do it.
Right.
You know, I hate the fact that the state government complains about the federal government telling them what to do, but then they turn right around and tell our counties and cities and school districts what to do. And a lot of them say, well, they're very liberal. Well, that's their constituency's fault. It's not yours to fix it. You shouldn't impose your beliefs onto a local government. If they want to raise taxes and they want to live in a communist utopia, let them. That as a conservative, we believe in local control. We should allow them to exercise that. Trust me, if they raise their taxes to the point their citizens are tired of it, they'll throw them out of office and they'll fix the problem. You know, I trust the people of South Carolina with their own decisions. I don't think I need to tell them how to think or tell their local governments what to do.
One last question to finish up is, what would you say to someone that's kind of doing what you were doing, like thinking like, well, maybe I should run for the legislator one day?
Well, it's two. My way I did it was two parts. So first, it's from the party side. You know, the first thing you have to remember is the first election. The most important one is you got to get through a primary. Now, if you're lucky like me to be in a district that's heavily Republican, sometimes that is the election. You know, that is the one that really matters. Ironically, I didn't have a primary. I was actually able to avoid a primary race and just had a general. but you have to win a primary. So remember, it's very important to stay involved in the party. Be party chairman. Trust me, other than in big counties like York and Greenville, Columbia, Charleston, Horry, there's 20 people in a room in a county party.
Right.
My meetings are lucky to have 20 people. Now, we have a couple of clubs that meet around the county. If you add all those together, maybe it's 60, 70 active people. But be involved. Be a county chair. Be an EC member. Sit on the state board. You'll learn a whole lot doing that and meet a lot of people. Doing that, you meet the activists. You meet the donors. Work on a bunch of campaigns. One thing I think a lot of people make a mistake of is they don't get involved with every campaign they can. They go, I don't like that person. I don't think they're conservative enough. I'll let them do their own. No, help out everyone. Just take the position of, as a Republican volunteer and activist, it's my job to help elect Republicans. It's the Republican voters' job to elect good ones in primaries. But whoever gets through the primaries is who I help. Yeah. It's kind of the position I have. So I did that. Helped elect Republicans to these pointless offices like coroner and sheriff and stuff like that. But trust me, it came in real handy because you meet a lot of people. The second side to it is you also have to be active in your community outside of politics. So, for example, when I was at USCL, I was the student body president at the university. Great resource. I actually got our dean, talked with him, and said, listen, I want to help you sell USCL. We don't have a large budget or nothing, so it's not like I could do a lot in student government. I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, well, would you be willing to go to the Rotary clubs around the area and talk about USCL? Of course, I said, absolutely. That got me in the door of 80 to 100 people at each meeting, of very important people in town, people who are donors to campaigns, people who are just active in their community and kind of matter. They're opinion makers.
Right.
So I had a free audition in front of them about something, especially in Lancaster, they care about, which is USCL. So I did that. Get involved in nonprofit boards. I sit on a children's council board. We do charities in Lancaster for kids who are born from mothers who are single or don't have the ability to pay for things. We help with pregnancy prevention for people, for girls in middle school and stuff like that. Get involved in those. That'll teach you a lot.
Right.
And also it's good to be exposed to. And it's good to have something other than politics to lean on.
Yeah.
And also just, be active. Go to stuff. Go to those pointless things that no one goes to. It helps. What I always said was, in order to win an election, this is kind of my rule. If 7 random people from your district are in a room, you want one of those 7 people to know you and know you so well enough that they're willing to tell the other 6 why they should vote for you.
I like
and
that.
if you can get to that point, it's going to be tough to ever beat you in a race. And that's why you got to have both the political side, but the community side as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
It was really
Thank
great.
y'all for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Newton.
Absolutely.
Thank you.